What are forest biomass harvesting guidelines? And more importantly, why do we need them? First off, we want to address what is woody biomass. Technically, it's all the trees, both alive and dead, out in the forest. That includes snags, standing dead trees, fine woody debris, small branches, coarse woody debris, big logs lying on the ground, stumps, bushes, non-merchantable stems. All this material are parts of the forest stand and can be considered biomass. More practically, when people talk about woody biomass, particularly woody biomass for energy, they're talking about the logging slash, the logging debris, the small diameter tree tops, limbs, trees that cannot be sold as higher value products. So the material that ends up on a site when the logging job is done. Why would we need guidelines to talk about this material? Well, good biomass harvesting practices can enhance or improve forest land, where poor biomass projects can damage or devalue it. So guidelines help keep harvesting practices that protect our forests. Previous best management practices tend not to include guidance on tops, limbs, and low-value products. They're focused on water quality. We need new guidelines for new markets. Already, a number of states have developed biomass harvesting guidelines: Maine, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. All these guidelines have common elements. They all talk about the dead wood, the snags, and the woody material on the ground. They talk about wildlife and biodiversity, water quality, riparian zones. Soil productivity is a big issue, as well as silvicultural concerns, how the material is removed or what happens to the stand afterwards. Now, dead wood is important because on the ground it's habitat. Standing dead trees provide important nest sites in streams. It improves aquatic habitat. It serves as a seedbed for regeneration. And it releases nutrients back to the soil and forest. It decreases runoff and erosion, facilitates nitrogen fixation, and stores about 6% of our forest carbon. So it plays a wide range of roles. The question is, how much needs to be left on site? Clearly, not all of it has to be left on site to maintain the forest we know and love. We do need to leave on-site forest floors, sort of the fine material that's on the ground, roots, stumps, needles, and leaves. This material is high in nutrients, and removing it tends to disturb the site more than necessary. Snags, dead trees, large woody material, these parts of the forest provide particularly important habitat for wildlife. Now, in addition, we want to leave some portion of the tree tops, limbs, and small diameter trees generated by the harvest. Taking all of this material out impoverishes a site, but we want to leave some portion on site, and that's a lot of what guidelines talk about. Maine recommends leaving 20% of the fine woody material. Minnesota, 20%. Wisconsin, 1 ton per acre of fine woody material. Pennsylvania says 15 to 30% of harvestable biomass. Missouri recommends 33% of harvested residue. So there's a range of suggestions. These suggestions might be different in fire-dependent forests, ecosystems that would be adapted to lower quantities of dead woody material. And biomass removals can alter fire behavior. Reductions in smoke and carbon emissions actually help justify biomass utilization in a lot of fire-adapted forests. So that's a brief introduction, and I encourage you to look at the rest of this site and some of the publications here to learn more.